All right, guys. So, Francois, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it so much. We know your time is valuable, so we really do appreciate that. Could I ask you just to give us a little bit of background and tell us what's going on?
Thank you so much, Meryl, and welcome to everybody. Thank you for the opportunity, Neigh-Bours. I will start just by introduction. My name is Francois Rossouw. I'm the CEO of SAI. SAI stands for the Southern Africa Agricultural Initiative. Now, SAI is a family farming organization. We protect the rights and ideals of family farmers. Now, a family farmer is not black or white. It's not rich or poor, big or small. It's any person that owns or manages a farming operation. We are controlled by a board of directors, which the majority of them are bona fide farmers. Our board chairman is Dr. Theo de Jager. He's also the president of the World Farmers Organization, and he represents 570 million farms across the world. How SAI got involved and why I wrote the opinion that I wrote is that we have a lot of members that do have horses. And I was asked that by a lady, can I exercise my horse? This was about 2 weeks ago, Sunday, and I decided that I would write an opinion on it. I am an admitted attorney to the High Court of South Africa, as that's my background. And her challenge was that she had her horse's health declined, and she told me that exercise is vitally important for respiratory and digestive systems, as well as their joints, muscles, and hooves. So when I looked at the regulations, now, first of all, the regulations issued in terms of Section 27.2 of the Disaster Management Act says this is the piece of legislation governing this lockdown period. So we must all adhere to it. These are regulations issued by the Minister of Lindiwe Sisulu, or Kopta, Dlamini Zuma. So if you look at Section 16.3, Section 16.3 states that a person cannot leave his home unless he is an essential or permitted service provider. Now, it also says in that same section that you have to look at Annexure D of the regulations to see what is the definition of a permitted service provider. Under number 11 of Annexure D, it says that animal care is a listed essential or permitted service. Now, animal care, there is no cross-reference and there's no definition in the regulations, so we have to look at case law, and case law says you have to take the logical interpretation, which is either the dictionary or the normal grammar, etc. rules. There's a long description in the Natal Joint Municipal case. So animal care says you have to look after the physical and mental well-being of an animal. That means that animal care or exercising your horse, which is vitally important to the health of a horse, is then a permitted service. Now you have to look at Section 28.4 of the regulations. Section 28.4 says a person that is a permitted service provider needs to have a form that corresponds with Form 2 Annexure A. Now, you will also note that in Section 1 and 2, Section 16.1 and 2, it also refers to this same Form 2 Annexure A. Now, Form 2 Annexure A is an attachment to the regulations, and it is available to anyone. Any person can take the regulations, print that Form 2 Annexure A and complete it. So, Section 16.3 and 28.4 refers to Form 2 Annexure A, and that is also the travel permit that SAI issues. So this means to prove that you are a permitted service provider, you have to have a form that corresponds with Form 2 Annexure A, and you need it to travel, because if you are stopped at a roadblock, the officials ask you, where is your form that corresponds with Form 2 Annexure A? And that is why SAI made this platform available, where any person, farmers and now horse owners, can digitally complete this travel permit and then use it at a roadblock. The burden of proof is much higher with SAI's travel permit. Actually, we ask you for your reason for travel. This is to enable officials at roadblocks to easily determine whether your travels are legitimate or not. There was a few issues that I see that did not come through on my opinion that I wrote and that people misinterpreted. First of all, I stated in that document and in every piece that I sent out that only exercise, essential exercise, is important. Meaning no leisurely riding, no horse training or sporting activities. That is prohibited. So whatever is needed to exercise your horse for animal care, to look after its health, that is permitted. Then on the 8th of May, the state veterinarian, Dr. Modisane, issued a guideline. And in the guideline, it specifically has a section for horses. And it says under level 4, horse exercise is permitted. And the only other thing that he had in there was that you can ride your horse in a public space between 6 to 9 a.m. in the morning. Now, you know, section 16.2F governs this period which we can walk, run, or jog. So that is totally in line with the regulations, because a permitted service is not prohibited, or it doesn't have to be confined to 6 to 9 a.m. You can do it throughout the day. Farmers have to feed their cattle and lock up their sheep at night. So the same with animal care. But I must agree that the guidelines that Dr. Modisane issued saying, okay, you can ride your horse in a public space between 6 to 9 a.m. Was a good one, except for when you're living in a space where there's a lot of dogs around, and that can lead to injury. But then you must first go back to the spirit of the document again. The spirit said it is for animal care, to look after the health of your horse. Then another thing is, I did not dispute any stable owner's private property rights. Really, if you want to refuse a person on your yard, you can do so. But you must remember that those people that have their horses at your stables have a contractual agreement with you. Then you must train or exercise their horse if it's necessary. And I think they must look at that contract, and in each case it will differ, so I won't go in on that. Some other issues that popped up. Look, level 4 afforded us this opportunity to open the economic conditions more. So just like a restaurant owner who's now selling takeaways to feed his family has to comply with the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the Biological Hazardous Chemicals Act, so the same rules apply for stable and horse owners. So they also must follow the OSH Act, and there's the guidelines issued. You will see that it is section 16.6, which gives you what precautions that needs to be taken. So I would advise you to go and look at regulation 16.6 and Annexure E. That gives all the information to a stable owner ready to prepare his stables for his clients to do the necessary exercise. Yeah, I think that in a nutshell is the statement from my side. Thank you, Meryl.
Thanks, Francois. That's absolutely great. Yeah, if I could ask, guys, if you want to ask a question, just to go over the protocols again so it doesn't turn into completely nuts, if you could just pop your question into the chat function on the right. You can find that the chat button on the bottom if you mouse over. If I could just ask you to put your hand up, use the hand up function on Zoom, and pop your question into the bottom, just so we can see exactly who is asking what. I've got a message from Yaku. If I could ask Yaku, if you use the hand up function, then I can find you really quickly, and I don't have to go through hundreds and hundreds of people. Right, that's awesome. I've got questions from Margaret. If I could ask you guys just to please pop your questions in the chat. So you have your hand up, A, and B, so I could see that you are asking a question. Yaku's asking, may a stable yard employ an exercise supervisor as an essential service? Yaku, if you want to just elaborate on that a little bit, I've unmuted you so you can carry on.
Hi, sorry, I don't know if is my mute on, or can you hear me?
No, you're great, you can carry on.
Sorry, I've got a baby on the hip as well, so it might talk along. I just want to know, yeah, if imagine I'm a stable yard and I've got a couple of these exercisers now, all keeping their distance and doing their thing. I might need someone to supervise them, because whatever, would that be allowed? Can I get a permit for a person to supervise all of these exercises?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Jaco. Okay, first of all, we need to go back to your industry has been allowed to function, meaning that you are a permitted service provider. So you're allowed to open your stable and you're allowed to employ the people that perform an essential service. So it's very important to keep this in mind. And for those traveling to exercise horses as well, it's essential persons for essential services. That's why you can't take along your family or your kids, because the idea is essential persons to exercise your horse to look after animal care, meaning its health. Now, the form you would need, Jaco, is also a Form 2 Annexure A, or a form that corresponds with Form 2 Annexure A. SAI has the online one, which you can get, which is in accordance with that, and we have a PDF one, which you can give to your employees. A critical thing is that the Form 2 Annexure A, whether it be for travel purposes or for permitted services, needs to be signed by a head of institution. Now, a head of institution is the owner of the horse, or in your case, because you are a stable owner who employs a person to perform a permitted service, you need to sign that form on behalf of him. So you fill in his details and your details, and you sign because you are employing him and you are the head of the institution. But yes, it would be permitted.
All right, super. I have got a question from Margaret about, and I think this is something that a lot of people want to know about. What happens if you don't own a horse? What happens if you only lease a horse, or if you bait a horse? Margaret, I have unmuted you, so you can go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's in relation to a leased horse, and where a lease agreement exists, etc. So my kind of interpretation was that with the SAI permit, where you have to submit proof of documentation, that a copy of the horse's passport plus the lease agreement, and then that permit would permit me to travel to the private yard where my leased horse is and carry out animal care.
Yes, I think it's just important to clarify again. Yeah, but you are correct. We built in that reason for travel function you see, when you are stopped at a roadblock, they want to know that based on your documentation, whether you're actually traveling and you have a legitimate purpose. That's why we added that reason for travel section, to show that to the official that you actually have proof that you are performing a permitted service. So in your case, where you are leasing the horse, you would either need that the front page of that rental agreement, which shows your details and the person that you are renting the horse from, or you would just need a letter from the owner on their letterhead identifying you as the person leasing that horse, and also that provides their telephone number, where if you're stopped at a roadblock and the official doesn't believe you, you can take that number on the form, you can phone the owner and says, listen, is this person available to, or is this person allowed, or is this person the primary caregiver in the form of exercise to look after your animal's care? And then he would say yes, and you would be able to go.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we've got two very similar questions from Antoinette and Razan about the confusion between SAI and SAEF. I'm going to unmute Antoinette. Antoinette, if you could go ahead and just have a chat, and then that takes care of Razan's question as well.
Okay. Hi, Francois. Thank you for doing this, first of all. I think it helps clear up a lot of things for all of us. My question is, SAEF kind of thinks they are the main body in South Africa with regards to horses. In my opinion, they are an equestrian sport federation. So they have jurisdiction over sporting events with regards to equestrian disciplines and so on. And your perspective from SAI's side is that horses are part of agriculture. So which one are we to believe? Because I think both have merit, but in this case we're talking about just general well-being of horses and exercise of horses and nothing to do with sport. But someone said to me today that the SAEF has the connection to government in terms of sport and equestrian. So what is the position there, and how does this influence permits and riding and permissions?
Okay, thank you, Antoinette. I don't want to speak too much about what the SAEF does. I think they have done some great work, and there's really no any hard feelings between us. So I would just say the following. The Disaster Management Act regulations govern all of us. Nobody can override that. That is because if we had organizations that prescribed how all horse owners should act, or organizations who prescribed how people should act, this would be a very ungovernable country. So first of all, the regulations apply to all South Africans. I do not know what is SAEF's agreement or contract with their members. I'm speaking on behalf of my members who asked me a question to interpret the regulations for them. So I would really advise you to, if you are a member, go take a look at their constitution and see and contact them. I think they would provide you with a straight answer. But yes, look, SAI's position is still the same. We are not going to inhibit people's civil liberties, especially in this time where we are given this gift, to exercise our horses and to look after their health. And I mean, it's the state veterinarian has said it's allowed. The regulations show it's allowed. So why are we not doing it?
Thanks so much. That clears up a lot. Thank you.
Okay, that's super. Thanks so much, guys. Okay, there was another question here. Coco's asking, I can't find you, Coco, you haven't got your hand up, so I'm going to ask a question for you. Are you okay to carry a copy of your ID book, or do you have to have the original with you?
Okay, you will see that with our forms, we ask you first, when you identify yourself in the first section of the permit, we ask you to upload a copy of your ID. But it is important to note that the regulations state when you are traveling, you need to have a form of identification with you. So I would advise you to keep a copy of your ID with you at all times. It is very important, along with your travel permit.
That's great, thank you. Angela has got a question on mute about sports venues and arena equipment, etc., etc. Ange, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, that would be great.
Thank you very much, May. Francois, I have a very large yard with a large number of clients who I would desperately like to have back at the yard, okay? And as you've stated, there are different categories into which we could categorize ourselves. So the first one is obviously to categorize ourselves under agriculture, in which case exactly what you're saying from size perspective fits in with our program. The only question around that is that if we're considered as agriculture, I've been told, I don't know how true this is, that we would need to be breeding or eating horses in order to fall under agriculture. And I said, okay, I understand that. If not, then we fall under sport. If we fall under sport, then obviously we're governed by the SAEF. And if not, and we have an arena with equipment on our premises, even though it's a private premises, it then still falls under a sports facility, and therefore we can't have the public arrive.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Angela. That's a very good question. I don't think you have to put yourself into any category. You see, we have to look at the spirit of the regulations as well when we're interpreting this. When you're saying that you're a sporting facility, you're not practicing any sport when you're exercising your horse for animal care purposes. You are there to make sure that that animal that you are responsible for is in a good and healthy condition and that you are looking after its care. So categorization doesn't mean anything. When they're telling you that it's sporting venues are restricted, it's because they don't want people gathering around because it's harmful and it's a threat for the coronavirus to spread. That is the spirit of the regulations, and it's very important to interpret it that way as well. Because if we did that and then said no, but all stables have to close down, then people would not be permitted there to go and look after their horses or exercise them, or, I mean, it would create chaos. So it is, I would say, you know, we must look at what we are trying to achieve. We are trying to keep horses healthy, looking after their animal care. We are not hosting sporting events. We are not training horse riders. We are not doing leisurely riding. We are looking after animal care, and the person responsible for the animal care should exercise that horse.
So that's where the question comes in. The person who's responsible for the animal care is typically the livery yard, due to the fact that the client has a livery agreement paying the livery yard owner. And therefore, if the livery yard allows each and every client to come and take over that role, then it becomes a problem for the livery yard owner legally, because they're diversifying that role. If we didn't have a livery agreement in place, if it was DIY, every client could do it without a problem. But because there's a paid for livery agreement in place, apparently that's the glitch where we're getting in trouble.
Yeah. Angela, I totally agree with you. I think it is important in each case to look at your agreement with your livery, and to see what is the contractual agreement between you. Because if you're telling me that you're exercising each horse that the client has on your premises, and that they are all in good physical and in a healthy condition, then there would be no reason for the owner to visit that horse. I'm not any expert on animal or horse health, but we must also remember that animal care entails the physical and mental well-being of an animal. So I don't know what the connection between a horse owner and a horse is, and what it does to its mental health. But if you are fulfilling that function, because always it is important for animal care to exercise. That is what we must always keep in mind. Anything past that, riding for fun or to train the rider, that's not permitted, because the spirit is animal care and health.
So a livery yard owner will not get into trouble then for allowing your clients to come and take up that role, especially for someone like me who's got a big yard. For me to exercise 70 horses is nearly impossible. Yeah,
you see, you are the same as a business. You are opening your business doors to clients. If you comply with the OSH Act, with the directives issued in terms of the OSH Act, if you comply with the guidelines set for COVID and prevention, you have masks, you have social distancing, and you have all that. You are a business that's opening, the same like any other business that was allowed to open in level 4. So take the necessary precautions and there will be no problems. That is why, again, we go back to, you are a permitted service provider. If you did this before COVID and you allowed your owners to train their own horses because you just simply don't have the capacity, and now the government says, okay, level 4 is stepping in, you guys are allowed to exercise horses again, then your business is opening up again. You must remember, each owner is still paying you every month for the costs of keeping the horses there. So yeah, it is permitted.
Thank you very much.
It's a big pleasure.
Thanks, Angela. That's great. Okay, there's a really good answer, question from Elaine. Elaine, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask about, as a registered SAF member, are you in violation? So if you'd like to expand upon that a little bit. Guys, just before Elaine says anything, if you don't put your hand up, I can't find you to unmute you. There are too many people here. So please put your hand up and type your question very briefly in the chat room so we can find you and make sure that you are being and those questions answered. Okay, Len, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm driving with a headset, so I hope you can hear me. I'm asking this question on behalf of a friend who is a registered SAF member, and she has a competitive yard, and we basically wondering, because SAF has now put out statements and then said everybody needs to wait until they make a further statement. Is she in any violation of any rules should she choose to open her yard for her livery and not wait for an official statement from SAEF as a registered SAEF member?
again, sorry, I do not know what the constitution is of SAEF. I do believe it is on their website along with a bunch of other documents that you can download. So I would really advise her to either do that and go through the constitution, go through their announcements. Maybe they have announced something that will give more clarity, or just contact them directly and ask them what's their position and would she be fined, because she is a member of SAEF, so there is a contractual agreement between them, and she should adhere to an organization's rules that she belongs to in order to not have any disciplinary procedures against her.
Okay, it's difficult because some of us, we're at yards, some are members of SAEF and some are not. So now it kind of feels like I can go because I'm not a SAEF, but my friend next to me can't go because she is. So,
Yeah.
We're not really sure where the two meet in the end.
Yeah, I would really advise her to contact them and to clarify, whether she will be breaking their rules or not. I think that would be the best position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's super. Thanks, Elaine. I think there's sorry, Marcel, your hand isn't up, so I can't find you to unmute you. But there's a question from Marcel. Can the owner of the livery yard charge you to exercise your horse?
Yeah, Marcel, that's a very interesting question. It depends again on the contractual agreement between yourself and the livery. If the livery contract says yes, should there be an event like this force majeure or something that prohibits you from exercising your horse, they will exercise your horse at an extra cost. But if the agreement said, listen, the owner is in charge or is responsible for exercising the horse, then you must remember that you are now the responsible person, so you should be allowed in to exercise that horse. So please go and refer to your contract and look at that, because you see, if they prohibit you from coming in and the responsibility is on you to exercise that horse, that could be a big liability waiting to happen for the livery owner, because then they would have to provide that service and make sure that horse is healthy, because they have taken that right away from you, or that obligation in terms of a contract, they have taken it away from you. So I would refer to the agreement between the parties, and then I would also contact them and see if they are willing to do it. But to charge you, and then you would but they don't allow you on the grounds to do it yourself, I don't think that's really the best business decision, I would say.
Okay. There's a question from Mel. Again, Mel, sorry, I can't find you to unmute you. You haven't got your hand up. But Mel's question is, some of my clients don't ride their horses as they are retired, but want to just visit them. Is that allowed?
You see, again, I'm no veterinarian, so I can't tell you what is the impact of your horse missing you on its mental health. We must always go back to, is it animal care? Is it important for the horse's physical and mental well-being? And that is the rule that we should live by. So I can't give you any more information from that. Animal care. That's the rule.
Okay, Margot has a question for you about the number of people allowed on the property at a time. I think this has been answered already, but let's just go through it one more time. Margot, what was your question?
Hi, Francois and team. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Just to find out, how many people are we allowed on the property, specifically our livery yard, for how many people are allowed to ride at a time? And would that number include or exclude grooms?
I think this would depend yard to yard. I really think you should keep in mind, first of all, the Occupational Health Act, the guidelines, social distancing, all of that. And I think you should set up a schedule to not have too many people where they can accidentally run into each other. It should not be overcrowded. Look, these regulations are not specific, and the only guidelines that we have is the ones that Dr. Modisane issued, which says, yes, guys, horses can exercise during level 4 and in public spaces from 6 to 9. That is the only guidelines we have. The rest is up to us to do it responsibly. We cannot abuse this privilege, because if we abuse it, and I have seen it in other sectors, they will take this away. They will issue directives that say, listen, okay, horse exercise is gone. We've seen that it happened with the tobacco and with smoking, and they can do the same with horse exercise if we do not practice it responsibly.
Okay, thank you. So Kim, as a yard owner, would basically then be able to make the decision and implement the rules and have it in her COVID action plan.
Yes, that COVID action plan, that Annexure E, section 16.6, that is vitally important. And I would really, if you guys need access to those documents, I've got it here. I will send you an email with what I described in the beginning. And I will also, each time I reference something, I will put in the link to the relevant legislation, to the OSH guidelines, to the OSH Act, and you can just get it there.
Thank you.
Big pleasure.
Super. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. I think we're going to quickly, Marcel, if you just put your hand up again, you'll be able to find you. But Sonia has a question about how or if SAI will be able to assist if there is a problem. Sonia, I've unmuted you, so if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, yes, thank you. Now, I would like to know, if we do carry all the correct paperwork with us, how would SAI be able to assist us when we do run into trouble, either traveling through a roadblock or receiving a fine while we are performing our essential services? Thank you.
Yes. Hi, Sonia. Yes. First of all, we've already received photos and voice notes from happy horse owners who went through roadblocks which specified on the side travel permit, listen, I'm a horse owner going to exercise my horse because it's part of animal care. They went through the roadblocks. We've had 2 ladies, which I saw on our Facebook comments, who actually went to the police station and asked the police whether the travel permits are valid and whether they can go and exercise. And it was confirmed by the police on separate instances at different places. But from SAI's side, if you've got all the relevant documents and you followed all the guidelines, the OSH Act, the COVID-19 rules, we'll be more than happy to assist you should there be a fine, should there be any legal issue. We will definitely support you.
Right, Angela, I think that answers you as well, yeah? I have an anonymous question that I'd like to ask quickly, and then we'll get back to everybody else. If my horse has an injury which the yard manager is not treating but will not allow us on the property based on it being private property, how would I then gain access to treat my horse?
Yeah, you see, this is the problem with the access to private property. But I would put this is going to be the liability on the stable owner who is not treating that wound, and that could be a civil liability for them. So I would really advise in that sense, that if they do not allow you on the property and that horse's health is deteriorating, to send them a letter and to say, listen, this is the issue that you've got. You are concerned for the horse's health, and should the matter not be resolved by a certain date, that you'll have to take further action.
Okay, does that give you an answer? I hope. Let's see who else. There was somebody else. Yaku had a question about. Okay. Yaku says, for my stud farm, I've completed my compliance training for hygiene through CSRS, all in half a day. Okay, so that's great. So that's not a question, but that's a really, really good resource. That's great. Thank you so much. Mandy, I can't find you to unmute you, I don't think, because you don't have a hand up. But Mandy's asking, on what grounds can the yard owner deny the livery client access if the owner is fully compliant to all the COVID-19 protocols?
Now you see again, it's private property. There could be civil liability issues for her, you know, in the case of action against her by the client if something happens to the horse's health. But why would you not open a livery if you comply with all the regulations in the Act? It's a business that you need to open. So yeah, the private property right thing is still an issue, but it's something that needs to be protected. And I think the relationship between owner and livery or stable should be a good one. So I would not try to, hurt it, intentionally.
So just on that, obviously I was denied access. My horse had an abscess, and now the sentiment is that who does the livery yard veer towards? I'm not a member of SAEF, so they were quite happy to say, well, I'm not a member, so I can't follow those regulations. I'm also not a member of SAI, so I'm kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place as to who do I leverage off having no membership, but also having 3 horses that I'd like to get to see.
Look, Mandy, I'm going to give you the SAI phone, and it's open to everyone. First of all, listen, you do not have to be a member of SAI to get assistance from us. We are not doing this only for members. Our members become members of SAI, whether they are friends of family farming or whether they are family farmers, because we support the whole community. There where we see an issue with family farmers, we as a farmers organization go and get involved. The number for the SAI phone and the WhatsApp line, most of you who've got SAI travel permits will automatically receive all the necessary notifications. You receive it on a daily basis. Neigh-Bours is our marketing officer that is manning that phone. So the number is 066 071 6094. If you have received a permit from SAI, you will automatically receive notifications, and you can just send a message back and ask your relevant questions. Mandy, I would advise that you maybe contact us on that number, and we will see how we can assist you.
Thank you so much.
It's a big pleasure.
Okay, Laura's got a question that's also, Laura, unfortunately I can't find you, you haven't raised your hand. But Laura's got an interesting question. Is an owner of multiple horses allowed to appoint other riders to assist with the exercising?
You see, again, it's essential persons for essential services, and we must apply the bare minimum rule. If you are able to train 2 horses because you are able to do it, then you should do it. If we bend the rules a bit and abuse it, it will be taken away from us. So if you are able, do it. But if you need someone to train or to not train, again, exercise your horse, then it would be a permitted service. You must remember that Section 28(4) doesn't say employees who perform a permitted service. It says persons. So a person that performs the permitted service can get a Form 2 Annexure A travel permit and then can perform that service.
All right, there's a question from Vicky. I don't own a passport for my horse. Is a proof of purchase okay? I mean, in fact, can I just elaborate on that a little bit? What documents do I need to prove that I actually have horses there? Can I use my livery agreement with my yard? If I don't have a passport, or if I don't have a proof of purchase? What documents can I use?
Yeah, again, we must look at the spirit of the regulations, and especially the spirit of Form 2 Annexure A. What is the function that this travel permit performs? This travel permit informs the official that stops you at a roadblock whether your travels are legitimate or not. And the best way for him to confirm that is to phone the person on the other line, or to look at the proof that you provide. You know, for the farmers, we said, if you do not have a title deed, like most of the farmers in South Africa do, especially the communal farms, then upload your co-op account with your name and the address where your farm is. Now, the same goes for the horses. If you do not have a passport, or if you're leasing a horse, then the person who owns the horse can give you a letter, and then that official can just phone that owner and say, listen, this is the person that I stopped at the roadblock. Is he going to exercise your horse for animal care? And the owner would confirm it. So any proof that you have a horse that you need to exercise will suffice.
All right, thank you. And a question from Candace. Dennis asks, how can we get this info in writing for our yard owners who are not on the chat, who are not here?
I would advise you, if you have applied for a site travel permit, you would be automatically on the list. And I will send an email out to all those who indicated that they are horse owners or trainers. Otherwise, if you do not receive that email, send us a WhatsApp to 066 071 6094. And just send us your email address and ask for the opinion that I wrote. And like I said before, I will have it all. I will have the staffing documentations in as hyperlinks, and then I will just email it out to you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Margot has another question about liabilities in terms of COVID outbreaks. I'm not sure if this is really your ambit, Francois, but this has turned into sort of this is kind of the first opportunity we've had to ask anyone any questions live. So yeah, Margot, if you could go ahead, that would be great.
Thank you, Francois. Sorry, I do apologize if this is not the platform, but just
fine.
some clarification. In the States, if a company or a livery yard has an outbreak of COVID-19, the businesses have been held responsible. So the business owner and the livery yard. Do you think that would be the case in South Africa?
Look, I would have to go and see what the offences or penalties are when you do it intentionally. But always remember, when you do everything from your side as a livery owner to be compliant, you have done what the law requires from you. Then you cannot be held liable if something happens, because it has to be traced back to you. There has to be sufficient proof to show that, listen, this livery owner was negligent. That's why this COVID infection happened. And that's why I always advise, please guys, let's stick to exercise and let's comply with health, safety, hygiene, and COVID-19 regulations. But if you do everything from your side, then that will not happen. Remember, we've got thousands of businesses opening up throughout the levels. All of them are afraid of exposing someone. So that is why it is important that they all practice these health and safety regulations in order to not have this happen.
Okay, thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, that's great. We've got two questions, one from Catherine, one from Dawn, that are essentially quite similar. They have been asked and answered again, but I'm going to just to reiterate one more. Dawn asked, if the owner of the yard where my horses are kept doesn't believe that me riding them is an essential service, what can I do? Catherine says, I'm at a private agricultural yard. I have all the legal permits to visit and exercise my 20-year-old horse, main caregiver as far as providing food, vet care, etc. The owner now has denied all access. What can we do?
Yeah, look, I don't want us to strain the relationships, between horse owners and livery yards. But we must, I would first advise to send this piece that I will be sending out to all of you who requested. Send it to them and says, listen, this is what the regulations say. This is what Dr. Modisani, the state veterinarian, provided for in his guidelines. Can you please allow me access? I am concerned about the health of my horse, but only if you are concerned about the health. I can understand why horse or livery, stable or livery owners are concerned. This is a very unsure time, but it's unsure for everybody. But we have to get back when we are allowed to business. And so I would say start there. And then if you are still concerned, these businesses face not only a liability issue, but a business trust relationship that is going to break down. And, that could be harmful for their businesses.
All right, super, thank you. Lorette, I'm going to unmute you quickly so you can ask your question to Francois. Lorette has got a question about CIPC compliance and essential exercise workers forms. Laura, please go ahead.
Hi, Francois. So I need 2 essential workers on my property to work horses that need to be worked. We are CIPC compliant. What about roadblocks? If they get stopped, I've given them all my paperwork. Do we need your SAI permits as well?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, Loretta. I know Marcel asked as well, what other documents do we require except for the Form 2 Annex A? First of all, I would just like to say that the CIPC has issued a directive or has issued a media statement where it has said that a CIPC document is not a requirement in order for you to function as a permitted service. And this has been long disputed, but it's finally been settled with the CIPC saying it's a nice to have, but it's not a requirement. So the only thing that you would need at roadblocks, and it says if you leave your home to perform an essential or permitted service to travel, you will need a form that corresponds with Form 2 Annex A. Now, that is the side travel permit, but if you don't want to use the side travel permit, you can use the form that is at the back of the regulations. This is free. It's available to everybody. It's in the public domain. So just print the document, fill it out. You are the head of institution, so you should sign it on behalf of them. And each person traveling should have their own travel permit. Remember, a travel permit is attached to the person traveling, and it should have their particulars and their reason for travel, or your details, Lorette, and it should be signed at the bottom by you.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Super. Okay, thanks, Law. I think we have run out of questions. I think we have run out of questions. I'm seeing Sandra saying, just to say thank you. It is rare to get clear information these days. So huge thanks, and a massive thanks to us as well. So what we're going to do shortly is we have been recording. We have managed to not crash my computer or the website, which is quite pleasant. So we will be able to record this and have this up on the Neigh-Bours YouTube channel in a day or so. Savannah, Marcel's question has been answered a couple of times already. We'll be able to go back and have a listen in and make sure that it is clarified. So guys, thank you very much for your time. I hope this was helpful to you. Let's hope that something really positive comes of this. I know Francois.
Sorry, Meryl.
Yeah.
I just need to say something with regards to the notifications. If you applied for a travel permit, or if you want to receive that email, you have to save the sign number on your phone. It is important to save it because it is a special WhatsApp channel. You cannot receive notifications if it's not on your phone. So those guys who did apply for a travel permit but did not save our number, that is the reason why you did not receive the notification. Sorry, it was just something I had to clarify from a question we got on our side.
All right, super. One last question from Cara. Cara says, animal care is also listed under level 5 regulations. Does that mean if some areas move back up to level 5, we would still be permitted to exercise our horses? Is there any clarification on that yet?
Yeah, you would have to see what is permitted under the regulations. So that guidelines that Dr. Morisane issued has the level 5 guidelines for horses. So we would just have to refer back to that. Sorry, I don't have the document open with me. I had it open on level 4. But it depends on how the regulations change, because if at each level the regulations change, we would have to interpret that regulations from the start. From SAI's side, we keep all our members up to date daily via this WhatsApp channel that we've got with the latest news regarding the regulations. We interpret the sticky subjects for them. We have got a panel of legal experts that help us with this. So yeah, it would depend on the regulations.
There is another question that's just been asked of me privately, and it's one that I actually should have remembered and brought up. It's been asked a few times. Jenna's asking, what about kids, Francois? There are a lot of child riders riding ponies that perhaps bigger people physically cannot ride. They're too big for these ponies, but they can't drive. They're underage. What is the must the child and the parents who is driving both have travel permits? How would that go about? Can we just have some clarity on that?
Yeah, again, you must remember there's no directive, so we must interpret what we've got. It's essential persons for essential or permitted services. If that child is the only person that can exercise that horse, and if that horse is not exercised and it will be detrimental to its physical or mental well-being, then that child is allowed to exercise that horse. That child should be issued with his or her own travel permit. And yeah, that is the only thing that's required. There is no age limit set out in the regulations. Yeah, it would not be an issue.
Okay. Francois, again, thank you so much for your help. I'm sure that there are going to be more questions raised in the coming days, and
Yes.
I'm hoping that we can get all the issues resolved and that we can get back to our horses and keep our horses working and happy and healthy. Just so everybody knows, I've had a pony colic because she stood for 4 weeks and she's not used to it. And she said, thanks very much for the $2,000 vet bill that I really can't afford. So I'm sure all of us are kind of in that same space. So this has been incredibly helpful and we do appreciate it. If we need to do a follow-up, I will chat to Francois and see if we can do it. You guys may or may not know, I also run the Joburg Medieval Fair, and our health and safety officer for our events. I'm busy chatting to him about making sure that how we can get yards compliant really easily, and let's see if we can't do a live Q&A with him as well. So please let me know if you would be interested in anything like that, if that would be valuable for your yards, just to get that information out. Drop me a line or drop a message on Neigh-Bours, and we can take it from there. But for now, Francois, I literally cannot thank you enough. We really appreciate it, and we will have this up on the YouTube channel as soon as possible.
Thank you.
All right, guys, have a wonderful evening. Hope lockdown is not killing you. A couple more weeks, and then we're at level 3. Thanks very much, guys. Go well.